I'm so tired of this man. And I know you are too. It's already been a very Elon-heavy week. Elon! And there's unfortunately even more Elon news to discuss. Thankfully, though, it's mostly news about him once again publicly embarrassing himself and subsequently losing a bunch of money. After an entire decade of hype, this week Tesla finally unveiled their plans for autonomous, driverless taxis. And while Elon's legion of fanboys, of course, hailed this as yet another masterful gambit for their hero, it's at least refreshing that Tesla's investors did not see it that way and voted with their wallets as soon as trading began Friday morning. Unfortunately, though, in terms of content, this week's big Tesla event was not as viscerally cringe-inducing as previous events like the Cybertruck one, though there was one moment that I would say parallels it. In some ways, but it is still pretty funny how blatantly full of lies and lacking in actual substance the whole thing was.
So Tesla's We Robot event, it was held at Warner Brothers Studios on the part of their backlot that's used in a lot of movies as a stand-in for New York City. And this was honestly a pretty appropriate location choice given how things played out. This was not a tech demo. It was an unveiling of a concept. Concepts of an idea.
The concepts of a plan, yeah.
And we have no way of confirming this, but we'd bet that most, if not all, of the autonomy on display was actually technicians backstage with VR headsets and Xbox controllers. And even if it wasn't, it was a heavily controlled area that they've been testing on for at least a month, based on what people have been posting online around Warner Brothers and the buildings nearby.
It's made it real hard to book studio space. I need that backlot.
They've been testing this for a long time, and honestly, it wouldn't take much with the way that autonomous vehicles currently work.
Yeah,
to,
again, this is 10 years ago. This would have been
kind of cool,
a very impressive demo, but
yeah.
We've seen all this.
Yeah. Anyways, for starters, Elon showed off the steering wheel and pedal-free Cybercab, which isn't hideous, but looks like your average 22-year-old automotive design major's final project. Complete with gull-wing doors and stupidly large hubcaps.
Although, upon closer inspection, those stupidly large hubcaps actually are partially just silver paint on tires. Very cool.
Yes, and I always, look, this is just a personal preference, but I always hate the way that those big, large hubcaps look.
Yeah.
Now, where it really gets stupid is when Elon starts talking about the thing.
So yeah, Elon claims that a Cybercab will cost less than $30,000, which, no.
Nope.
Sorry. Shut up. No, it fucking won't.
No.
Not possible.
Lying.
Have you seen how much cars cost these days?
Prove us wrong.
Come on. And Elon says that they'll be producing these things within 2 years, which again,
doubt.
Not gonna happen. Nope. And yeah, the reason for a price reveal like this is that, according to Elon, you'll be able to buy your own fleet of these things if you want, and you can use them to generate passive income, like some sort of road landlord.
What? No one will insure these if you're going to own a fleet of taxis.
They will. Because if they don't, they'll have to tell it to Earth.
Like 2 weeks ago, Geico said they weren't even insuring the Cybertruck anymore.
There's mixed messages on that. Geico says they don't have, basically it sounds like Geico does not have an official policy of not insuring Cybertrucks. They just seem to be routinely canceling policies on Cybertrucks.
Yeah.
But yeah, you could own your own fleet of Robotaxis. Very cool idea until you spend like 5 seconds thinking about the regulatory and liability aspects of it all. And we'll talk more about that in a bit because it seems to be a just huge blind spot for Elon's fans and something that Elon himself is going out of his way to not even acknowledge, including with his claims that Tesla Model 3s and Model Ys will have full unsupervised autonomy in California and Texas next year.
It's always next year.
It's always next year. And that's not something you can just say is happening. There are a lot of steps outside of your control that have to happen before that happens. And based on everything we've seen so far with how the government has reacted to Tesla's innovations, it's not happening. I'm sorry.
Before we even get too far down the rabbit hole, he is going to blame every misstep that going forward with Tesla on Kamala Harris. Or if it's the Trump administration, he's going to blame it on the previous administration. And there is, for the love of God, a very consistent track record of him just fucking lying about this. People gave us shit about the Cybertruck video when we made the Cybertruck video, and look how late that showed up and how many concessions they had to make. and it's still ugly, and I want it off the road.
Vindicated!
Yeah, guys, you gotta stop believing him. He's just fucking blowing smoke. He's a snake oil salesman at this point.
At this point, it's only the real, like, Kool-Aid drinkers who are taking this stuff hook, line, and sinker. It seems everyone else is like, okay, well, what else you got?
Yeah, and we're gonna get into more of his smoke and mirrors. But another fun claim presented with zero evidence was that these things won't charge via a charging cable, but will instead use inductive charging like a giant cell phone on a giant charging mat. So far, we're at least in the territory of the plausible, but then Elon brings out a surprise. The Robovan, which Elon inexplicably pronounces Robovan.
Robovan. Oh, just rolls off the tongue.
It sounds like a medication that a grandparent takes.
Ask your doctor if Robovan is right for you.
That's what I'm saying.
Robovan may cause death.
Yeah. So, like the Cybertruck, this is clearly a design that Elon himself doodled onto a napkin because it looks ridiculous, and not in a good way. It looks like an Art Deco toaster. It's also got what looks like maybe 4 inches of ground clearance. Well, who would win? The Cyber Toaster or a slight incline, a dip?
The smallest road dip you've ever seen in your life.
A speed bump, a speed hump, a pothole.
A driveway.
Just anything.
An on-ramp. Just any slight grade change.
Also, this looks eerily similar to modern ski gondolas, but with wheels on the bottom.
I like ski gondolas.
But that's the thing is it's just like, it's just a little basket rolling down the road.
Yeah.
The Robovan, God, it's so stupid. The Robovan is what you hail when instead of 2 seats, you need 20 seats. And getting back to the Robotaxi, 2 seats? Are you fucking stupid?
Yeah, very bizarre choice. Like, when I'm using not public transit, when I'm using like an Uber or a Lyft, it is often with more than 2 people.
Yeah, it's very strange to not just include at least 4 seats. It is a very bizarre choice, especially when you're doing away with like the entire instrument panel, and for some reason just putting a huge trunk in it. It was like, okay, why does it need a huge trunk if there's only 2 people?
Well, this isn't real, so
yeah,
we're scrutinizing this way too much.
Yeah, this is like making fun of the Super Mario Brothers movie. It's like you see it and you're like, oh, that's not for me.
It's not real. It can't affect your life.
It can't hurt me. So like with the Boring Company, Elon has once again just invented mass transit, but
we're calling it mass transit. But yeah, it sucks.
And also like the Boring Company, this Robovan is never going to be more than a demo. And if it is, like, it's going to be, if it ever exists, in a geo-fenced area that they have to like maintain, because the smallest problem that you would face on any road will take this thing out. And I'm not talking about hitting other vehicles or the actions of other drivers, because Waymo exists, it's doing okay. I'm talking about a fucking pothole. Road debris.
The Robovan is only the greatest pinnacle of success it can achieve is transporting people from like one side of a airport to another, or a convention center, much like the Boring Company's
It's an airport like monorail system
without the rails.
And I don't know if we get into it, but like the idea that anyone that would want to afford to take a ride in this thing would want to sit with other people and also reroute themselves from their direct location is insane, because that's what they can do right now with public transportation.
Well, he's not pitching this as you riding with strangers, because that's disgusting. He said, this will be great for sports teams.
Stupid. Dumb. Also, this is gonna, if anything, this would be a glorified bachelor party bus.
Yeah. Which
they already don't have to drive, and people are just gonna ruin it because there's no one to monitor.
Or a bang bus.
Yeah, it is the fake Robotaxi. So it doesn't matter what we say anyway, because not happening.
No.
The Cybercab is at least somewhat plausible. Not on the timeline that he's suggesting it is.
But just the existence of a cab, that exists. We've seen that already.
Waymo exists. I saw someone pull the stats that was like, currently because Tesla's used visual only, cameras only, and it's like...
It's great if it doesn't rain, snow, or get fogged up. Or...
In like best case scenarios, has like a 70-mile range without a critical interaction with a human driver, whereas the Waymo can go something like tens of thousands of miles without an issue.
Yeah, I'm not a fan of it, but like they've put in the work. They've played it safe with it. And the failure rate of Waymo compared to everything Tesla has showed so far is night and day.
It's a bizarre, weird swing for the fences that is almost certainly, and hasn't so far, worked out.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But
anyways,
the Robovan, it's just some chum for the fans. Oh my God.
Look how futuristic
he
it
invented
looks.
a bus.
Yeah.
But in the same vein, Elon closed out the event by bringing out a bunch of his Optimus robots and continuing to claim that these things will cost $20,000 and will do all of your chores, babysit your kids, and he said this, be your friend.
Don't worry, guys. I'm looking out for you. I know how tough it is out there.
I know how lonely it is being an Elon Musk fan.
It's going to be even lonelier when one of these things accidentally crushes your baby skull.
Yeah. And listen, you could say, all the videos of this are clearly CGI and not real. But he even had a few of these things working as extremely slow bartenders at the after party. So checkmate. This definitely very much impressed a bunch of people who were willfully unaware that these robot bartenders were definitely, I will put money on this, 100% being controlled by humans backstage with VR headsets and hand tracking.
First of all,
this was not autonomous.
Multiple people
who were there
have already come out and said that they were being controlled. First of all, let's clarify. The ones that were dancing and doing all that, probably pre-programmed and completely autonomous. The ones that were talking to people, let me tell you a story. When I was a child, a little, very young boy, I went down to the county fair and they had a robot that would interact with you down at the county fair, and it had a happy little face, and it would talk to you. You know what was happening? There was a guy in a booth, like 150 feet away, driving this thing and talking to people, and that was 30 years ago.
But it felt real.
It felt really great as a child. This, what was showed off on the Warner Brothers backlot, was essentially what Disneyland has been doing already
it's
for
like
years.
Going into the Hall of Presidents.
No, it's even worse. It's like going to the Star Wars land and they have a guy that has a controller and a backpack that's sitting there controlling fucking R2-D2 and little bots.
Yeah.
But there were handlers around. It was clearly being operated by someone else. Now, the argument that they're making is that, well, it's a hardware demo, and it's like, okay, great robots. Boston Dynamics has been doing this
It's not a
already.
hardware demo. It's like, that's the thing. But
he's not even being honest about that.
Yeah. So if the pitch, because it is impressive that you can make a humanoid robot that does respond one-to-one with the person controlling it. Like, if they were pitching this as you use this in dangerous places, like working with hazardous materials, rescue operations, a way for people to go somewhere without actually being there, I'm like, that's pretty cool. But he's not marketing it as that. He's marketing this as your own personal fucking Star Wars robot.
Yes.
Which is not going to fucking happen.
That apparently is...
Especially not at $20,000.
Going to change your kids' diapers or watch them or whatever. When it's really going to be someone being paid like 10 cents an hour to sit... Like the people that have already been acting as AI chatbots because it can't be trusted.
It would be funny if he does brute force this to market and just to save face, and the robots are still all just being controlled by like Tesla engineers, or let's be real, controlled by people in like the Philippines or Africa who are being paid like $3 an hour.
Yes.
But like the people who own them think that they have an AI robot.
Yeah, it's my AI friend. It's literally Osimo from South Park. It's just Cartman in a box. That's all it is.
Anyways, take away all the vague, unbelievable promises, and this event was something that just about any large car or electronics company could have put together in a couple months with off-the-shelf parts. And while our cynical take on all this won't surprise anyone, what was kind of surprising was how investors reacted, with Tesla's stock closing at nearly 9% down at the end of trading on Friday. And adding insult to injury, Uber and Lyft's stocks were up about 10%.
The entire stock market was up.
No need to worry.
Just compared to the S&P 500, it's very obvious. Like, it's just one of the funniest things I saw was like when it had the robot bartenders, someone was like, pretty impressive. And this one didn't swing an iPad around and ask for a tip. And he goes, and then he adds, I just bought $10 million more worth of Tesla stock. And it's like, if that were true, which it's not, you're fucking lying on the internet. If that were true, you lost $800,000 in a day, or $900,000 in a day.
And if that were true, that means billions of dollars were pulled out of Tesla to counteract your $10 million. Shut up.
Yeah.
Shut up.
Here's Yahoo Finance with more on the stock stuff. A lack of detail disappointed Tesla bulls like Adam Jonas of Morgan Stanley as well. Heading into what might arguably have been the most highly anticipated product unveil in Tesla's history, we had a number of expectations of what the market might learn that we felt were consequential to the direction and debate around the stock, Jonas wrote in a note to clients Friday morning. We were overall disappointed with the substance and detail of the presentation. Specifically with the Cybercab, there was no detailed discussion of technology aspects like sensors, range, safety features, and configurations, seating for example, Jonas said. Furthermore, like Saganagi, Jonas pointed out a lack of detail regarding improvements to FSD, a detailed rollout plan for robotaxis to consumers, and financial analysis, among other things.
And yeah, the vibe is very funny. It seems all the big investors are just like, all we want one thing, Elon. We want a car that costs $25,000 to $30,000 that people can buy. Just a shitty Tesla that has mass market appeal. Can you please do that? And Elon's like, no, I will do literally everything but
That's not the future.
I could do anything for my investors, but I won't do that. Anyway, here's Reuters. Tesla is aiming to leapfrog incumbent self-driving players, including Alphabet's Waymo, by pursuing a lower-cost technological path that Musk believes will allow the company to scale up its autonomous vehicles far quicker than rivals. Tesla's strategy is simpler and much cheaper than that of its rivals, but has critical weaknesses. Chief among those is that the AI technology underpinning its self-driving system makes it nearly impossible to pinpoint why a crash or other failure occurred, something that could concern regulators. Tesla software is at least years behind where Waymo is. That's the hard part. No flashy vehicle design is going to change that, said Matthew Wansley, professor at New York's Cardozo School of Law. Tesla's rivals use similar AI and camera technology, but layer on so-called redundant systems and more expensive sensors as a safety precaution.
And yeah, Waymo has been doing this shit for nearly a decade, gradually ramping up what they're capable of and what they're even allowed to do with better vehicles, and their cars are still geofenced to specific areas with no highway driving. The idea that Tesla will be able to catch up to them in a couple of years isn't just absurd on a technical level, it also completely ignores the regulatory aspect, where the NHTSA and state DMVs have to give you permission to operate on public roads after being convinced that what you're doing is safe. Add to that the idea that, unlike with Waymo, these robotaxis will be privately owned and operated, which is brand new legal territory with rules that haven't even begun to be written. The fact that on top of the few vague claims Elon made, the regulatory aspect wasn't even mentioned is definitely weird. But then you remember that Elon Musk is currently pumping a shitload of money into Trump and other Republican candidates, and it starts to make a little bit more sense, because dismantling the regulatory state is one of the GOP's primary goals. No NHTSA, no problem.
Yeah.
These death machines will be on the road in no time.
Yeah, the current Joe Biden NHTSA would never allow this to happen. But the Trump non-existent NHTSA that just rubber stamps anything that Elon Musk, investor in the Republican Party, put on their desk, well, they'll let it happen.
We could have all
and I assume no liability because these are your cars and not mine.
Yeah.
I just sold them to you. Anything they do out there on the road, that's your fault.
You probably messed with them or something.
Yeah.
Yeah. And also, you think the AI images of people being rescued from hurricanes are impressive? Wait till you see these cyber robots out there rescuing people.
Just shoving them underwater.
Yeah.
But speaking of Musk being fully in the tank for Trump, the New York Times put out a piece on Friday digging into just how unprecedented this all is. In the final weeks of the presidential campaign, the richest man in the world has involved himself in the US election in a manner unparalleled in modern history. Elon Musk, seen over the weekend jumping for joy alongside former President Donald J. Trump at a rally in Butler, Pennsylvania, is now talking to the Republican candidate multiple times a week. He has effectively moved his base of operations to Pennsylvania, the place that he has recently told confidants he believes is the linchpin to Mr. Trump's reelection. He has relentlessly promoted Mr. Trump's candidacy to his 201 million followers on X, the social media platform formerly known as Twitter, that he bought for $44 billion and has used to spread conspiracy theories about the Democratic Party and to insult its candidate, Vice President Kamala Harris. Above all, he is personally steering the actions of a super PAC that he has funded with tens of millions of dollars to turn out the vote for Mr. Trump, not just in Pennsylvania, but across the country. He has even proposed taking a campaign bus tour across Pennsylvania and knocking on doors himself, in part to see how his money is being used.
Get the fuck off my property.
Please do this. Hello, I wanted to talk.
He is not good.
69.
And not exactly his fault, obviously, but he's just not good talking to people. So this is a plan that's just not going to work. In fact, he was very awkward on that stage. And even in
I'm Dark Mag.
I'm talking about the stage at the cyber event.
Oh, yeah. I'm like, buddy, like, it's so weird. I mean, listen, I talk for a living, so I'm obviously biased here, but like, if I'm putting on a, career-defining event, supposedly, I'm running through that script a couple times. I'm not just, like, getting up there to riff.
And also, you would assume that, like, you would have someone hyping up the crowd more or miking the crowd better and not having awkward silences.
Just play stock techno music.
It's bizarre. It goes out without saying that, looking back, it's utterly ridiculous how much Elon used to complain about big tech and social media platforms being in the tank for Democrats and how unethical that was, considering how far above and beyond he's gone to not only personally support and promote Trump, but also mold an entire social network in his image. The Times report also confirms that the recent suspension of journalist Ken Klippenstein was done directly at the request of the Trump campaign.
Yeah, which, like, this is obviously, it parallels the Hunter Biden laptop stuff way back then, where it's like, you're doing the exact same thing in reverse. So all of your complaints back then was not about principles. It was just about the actual content of the leaks.
Yeah.
It's stupid. Anyway, he's back, though. They gave him his account. After the New York Times published this, and people were like, wait, you suspended a journalist because the Trump campaign called you up and said to do it? I guess they finally were like, all right, we should let this guy back up.
Looks pretty bad. The one possible silver lining to all this, though, is that Elon understands politics about as well as he understands social media. And if Elon is running his political operation the way he's running Twitter, he's blowing a ton of money on something that's going to fail.
Yeah. The more he gets involved with Trump, the more I'm just like, I mean, this is based purely on vibes, but I'm like, everything this guy touches turns to shit, and he's been wrong about literally everything for the past, like, several years. So, I don't know. It indicates to me that Trump's going to lose.
Yeah.
I mean, more than if it indicates anything, that's what it indicates to me.
There you go. And he's wasting a bunch of money in the process.
Yeah, we love it. In related news, we recently talked about how Cards Against Humanity sued SpaceX for damaging and polluting land that they bought with fan donations back in 2017 along the Texas border. We also recently talked about Elon's Political Action Committee offering $47 to people who get swing state voters to sign some petition saying they love the First and Second Amendments.
It's just so obvious what he's doing.
Well, now these two stories have collided, and this feud between Elon Musk and the party game that he surely thinks he is really good at has now escalated further.
Yeah.
Here's NBC News. The company behind the game Cards Against Humanity is aiming to one-up Elon Musk with its plan to pay blue-leaning swing state residents who make voting plans and agree to publicly condemn Donald Trump. The company announced an initiative Tuesday to encourage people who didn't vote in 2020 to go to the polls this year by handing out up to $100. That's way more than 47.
On a website created by the game company, eligible voters are asked to provide their personal information, which is then checked against voter data that the company said it bought from a data broker. You wouldn't believe how easy it was for us to get this stuff, the website said. If eligible voters didn't vote in 2020, Cards Against Humanity offers them a payout, provided they write apologies for not having voted 4 years ago, creating voting plans, and publicly posting, Donald Trump is a human toilet. If the voters lean blue and live in swing states, they can earn more money. According to the website, over 1,700 eligible voters have already participated.
So yeah, a little taste of his own medicine. And yeah, $100, way more than 47. So Elon,
more than twice.
Elon, I think you might need to spend even more of your money.
Oh, drat. $69 wouldn't even be enough.
Yeah, and it is a pretty clever one because, like, it is publicly available information whether you voted in a certain election.
Yeah.
So, yeah, if you didn't vote in 2020,
this
is a great opportunity for you.
Elon didn't vote.
That's true.
Yeah.
Maybe he can make $100 to offset some of the millions that he's spending.
Yes.
But anyway, just one more bit of politics before we move on to the other news. The election is just a couple weeks away at this point, and it is worth pointing out what is actually at stake here.
Mm-hmm.
Trump and Vance do not believe in democracy. They've done a pretty good job distracting everyone from the basic fact that Trump literally tried to steal the 2020 election, and to this day does not admit that he lost. And they're not confronted about this directly nearly as often as they should be. So it was refreshing that this week J.D. Vance was asked a very simple question and had a real hard time providing an answer. Here you go.
In the debate, you were asked to clarify if you believe Trump lost the 2020 election. Do you believe he lost the 2020 election?
I think that Donald Trump and I have both raised a number of issues with the 2020 election, but we're focused on the future. I think there's an obsession here with focusing on 2020. I'm much more worried about what happened after 2020, which is a wide open border groceries that are unaffordable. And look,
Senator,
Lulu,
yes or no?
okay.
Did Donald Trump lose the 2020 election?
Let me ask you a question. Is it okay that big technology companies censored the Hunter Biden laptop story, which independent analysis have said cost Donald Trump millions of votes?
Senator Vance, I'm going to ask you again. Did Donald Trump lose the 2020 election?
Did big technology companies censor a story that independent studies have suggested would have cost Trump millions of votes?
Senator
I think that's the
Vance,
question.
I'm going to ask you again. Did Donald Trump lose the 2020
And I've answered
election?
your question with another question. You answer my question and I'll answer yours.
I have asked this question repeatedly. It is something that is very important for the American people to know. There is no proof, legal or otherwise, that Donald Trump did not lose the 2020 election.
You're repeating a slogan rather than engaging with what I'm saying, which is that when our own technology firms engage in industrial scale censorship, by the way, backed up by the federal government, in a way that independent studies suggest affect the votes, I'm worried about Americans who feel like there were problems in 2020. I'm not worried about this slogan that people throw. Well, every court case went this way. I'm talking about something very discrete, a problem of censorship in this country that I do think affected things in 2020, and more importantly, that led to Kamala Harris's governance, which has screwed this country up in a big way.
Senator, would you have certified the election in 2020? Yes or no?
I've said that I would have voted against certification because of the concern that I just raised. I think that when you have technology companies—
The answer is no.
When you have technology companies censoring Americans at a mass scale in a way that, again, independent studies have suggested affect the vote, I think that it's right to protest against that, to criticize that, and that's a totally reasonable thing.
So the answer is no.
Yeah, they always squirm with this.
Actually, I have a question for you. No, this is an interview.
Yeah.
It's a yes or no question. Very simple. What are you doing?
It's very obvious every time any kind of either January 6th or stolen election stuff comes up, because every Republican seems to dance around it unless they're complete sycophants.
Well, let me ask you a question about Facebook censoring. That's the real issue here, is the censorship on social media.
Sir, I'd like to remind you that Donald Trump was president in 2020 when you're claiming that everything was being censored.
It's so funny. But yeah, this one was good. And it's every once in a while you see good examples of like political journalism in this country that makes you realize how fucking shitty so much of the rest of it is.
Yeah.
Where it really does just come down to
asking questions and demanding the answers to those questions.
A few basic questions.
Or just
about
follow-up
stuff
questions.
Like this and abortion. And you say you want to get rid of all these immigrants. What would that actually look like? Walk us through that. Just really basic shit. They've done a great job avoiding, and the media class has really been accommodating for.
Well, maybe we'll talk about it Monday, because Trump's been on a real tear this weekend on Truth Social about what those plans might actually look like. And guys, it's fascism.
It is.
It really is. Just say what it is. You shouldn't be scared to say it, even though people will think you're crazy for some reason, because that's also their plan, is to make anyone that says it sound crazy.
Yeah.
But
I'm reading a book
that's
right
what he's
now.
pitching.
Reading a book right now called The Anatomy of Fascism. It came out several years ago, before all this. And it is fascinating. Going through just the rise of the fascists in Italy and the Nazis in Germany, I'm like, there's a lot of interesting sort of parallels to a lot of this stuff.
Yeah.
But that's it for politics. Or at least there's more in the headlines, sorry. But that's it for human politics for now, because it is time now for an update to last week's top story from the world of bear politics.
Very violent politics.
This year's Fat Bear Week, in which voters decide which bear at a national park in Alaska put on the most weight while preparing for hibernation, kicked off in the wake of some pretty serious scandal.
Yeah.
One of the competition's long-running fan favorites was killed by another bear, live on camera, just days before Fat Bear Week was set to begin. This was shocking news for Fat Bear Week fans, but the show must go on. And it turns out bear-on-bear murder was a recurring theme this year. Here's the Associated Press.
In a storyline better befitting a melodrama than a popularity vote, Grazer won her second Fat Bear contest Tuesday by defeating the male behemoth that killed her cub this summer. Grazer beat Chunk by more than 40,000 votes cast by fans watching live cameras at explore.org of Alaska's Katmai National Park and Preserve. Fans cast votes online for their favorite chunky competitor in tournament-style brackets that begins with 12 bears. They picked the bear they believe best exemplifies winter preparedness by the fat they have accumulated over the summer feeding on the sockeye salmon that returned to Brooks River. The bears often perch at the top of a falls in the river, grabbing leaping salmon out of the air as the fish attempt to hurdle the waterfall to spawn upstream. This is where Grazer's cub died after it slipped over the waterfall and was killed by Chunk, perhaps the most dominant brown bear on the river. Grazer fought Chunk in an effort to save the cub, but it later died. The death was captured on the live cameras.
Damn.
Yeah.
So this was personal. So yeah, the voting public has made their voice heard loud and clear on the issue of grizzly bears killing each other. It will not be tolerated.
I'm glad that people, the death of the other bear was a big scandal, but I think it really tugged at the heartstrings of the voters this year.
We cannot reward bear-on-bear crime.
No.
But is Grazer actually fatter than Chunk? I mean, looking at the pictures, it's hard to say.
Yeah.
But Chunk is a very big boy, and you could certainly make the argument that this was Fat Bear Week voters voting against their interests. Their interests, of course, being picking the fattest bear in order to settle the score.
They had to vote with their hearts, Elliot.
They did. But hey, there's always next year. But in other news about dead animals, we recently talked about Hvaldimir, the mysterious beluga whale that appeared off the coast of Norway a few years ago wearing a strange harness, leading to accusations that Hvaldimir was a Russian spy whale. Now, spy or not, Hvaldimir was clearly previously domesticated. So years were spent figuring out how to get Hvaldimir back to his natural habitat in the Arctic. But in August, Hvaldimir was found dead. Possibly, some say, murdered.
Former Russian spies ending up killed after defecting to a NATO country is a tale as old as time. But organizations dedicated to protecting Hvaldimir believed he'd been shot by fishermen who were annoyed about the whale hanging out in all their favorite fishing spots. But now we have more answers. Here's the AP. A beluga whale that lived off Norway's coast and whose harness ignited speculation that it was a Russian spy was not shot to death as claimed by animal rights groups, but died of a bacterial infection, Norwegian police said Friday. A final autopsy by Norway's Veterinary Institute concludes that the probable cause of death was bacterial infection, possibly as a result of a wound in the mouth from a stuck stick. Amund Preed Revheim, head of the North Sea and Environment section of the police in southwestern Norway, said, I don't know. Suspicious. Maybe they're trying to avoid an international scandal.
Could have been polonium.
It could be.
Yeah.
Well,
Russia, they don't use bullets as much anymore. They're a little more clever with it.
It was a bacterial infection, but it was consistent with wounds that the whale received after being tossed out of a third-story window.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was really strange.
Yeah, bizarre. How'd it get up there? We don't know.
How do you defenestrate a whale? There have been no findings from the autopsy that indicate that the whale has been shot, he stressed, adding that the autopsy had been made difficult by the fact that many of the whale's organs were very rotten.
Too smelly. You can't do it.
Stinky. As there was no indication of foul play, there was no reason to start a criminal investigation into its death, Preed Revheim said. In September, animal advocate groups One Whale and NOAA filed a police report saying that the animal's wounds suggested it was intentionally killed. They pointed at several wounds found on the animal's skin, including what was interpreted as a bullet hole. Assessments made by the Veterinary Institute and the police's forensic technicians are that these are not gunshot wounds. X-rays of the chest and head were carried out without any projectiles or other metal fragments being detected, police said in a statement.
Oh, damn, that was just the blowhole. Oh,
look at that.
I forgot that whales have blowholes.
Yeah, it's a simple mistake.
Yeah.
It's a big fucking hole right in the top of the head.
Must have hit it with an elephant gun.
Hvaldimir got domed.
Yeah. So I guess it's slightly good that Hvaldimir wasn't shot to death, but it still sounds like it was a pretty horrible way to die. Though I guess natural causes happens, I guess.
Bacterial infection.
It got a stick from somewhere. As for what caused the wounds that so many were convinced were from gunshots, it's unclear. But earlier reports suggest it could have been birds or other animals scavenging off Hvaldmir's corpse after he died. Now, in any case, it's a tragic end to an otherwise fun story, especially considering plans were in place to relocate Hvaldimir to his natural habitat within the next year. But moving on to another story from the world of animals that thankfully does not involve any death. Welcome back to the show if you've skipped the animal death part.
Death-free animal news.
It does still sound pretty terrifying, though. Raccoons are one of the few wild animals you inevitably will come in contact with, even if you live far from nature. And their apparent lack of fear of humans, especially when they're in a large group, can be pretty unsettling. Hey, they're pretty cute, though. So some people not only happily coexist with raccoons, they even leave food out for them.
Big mistake.
I have neighbors that do this.
Don't.
I know.
Stop.
I know.
Stop.
Maybe don't do that, please. But here's what can happen if you do from USA Today.
Video shows nearly 100 hungry raccoons, some allegedly aggressive, swarm a Washington state woman's home last week in broad daylight looking for their next meal. The animals were captured on film after the resident from Kitsap County, across Puget Sound from Seattle, called 911 when the mammals surrounded her rural home, preventing her from leaving the property, officials said. In footage shared by the Kitsap County Sheriff's Office, a deputy is heard speaking to the unidentified woman, who says the large numbers of raccoons began gathering in her wooded backyard about 6 weeks ago. The woman, who lives a few miles north of Suquamish, told deputies she had been feeding raccoons on her property for more than 38 years. Sheriff's Office spokesman Kevin McCarty told the Kitsap Sun, part of the USA Today network.
Multiple generations of raccoons have been, obviously that's why so many are showing up.
38 years, that's 38 generations.
Yeah.
These do not live long in the wild. They probably evolved to just like, in their DNA, they recognize this as where the food comes from.
The neighbor that does this has so many raccoon statues instead of like garden gnomes or whatever. It's clearly an obsession. But yeah, one day there's probably going to be a police helicopter that's floating above.
Yeah, they're going to break into that house.
They got those hands.
And yeah. One raccoon, hey, pretty cute. 100 raccoons?
Look. The baby raccoons are so cute.
Yeah, sure. I had a skunk incident last weekend.
No. They get your dogs?
Not directly.
Okay.
They did just spray in the vicinity, though, and it got all over one of my dogs, who, of course, immediately ran in the house and started rubbing on all the furniture. We've been sleeping in the guest bedroom for a week because the main one, we've just been airing it out this entire time.
Yeah.
It was just a silly, absurd moment. It was 3 full-grown skunks in my yard, dogs freaking out, the skunks just equally confused at the whole situation. One of them ran right past me. And
lucky you didn't get sprayed.
I know. I was like a mix of like horrified and delighted, because you rarely get to see a skunk that close. And I'm just like, this situation is just absurd, because both sets of animals were just like, what the fuck do I do? What do I do?
Yeah. I've come face to face with raccoons many times. Or I'm like walking by and like, hey, what's that? Oh, that's a family of raccoons like 10 feet away from me. It's great. Mm-hmm. My dad almost submitted, back in the 90s, a video of him to America's Funniest Home Videos. We were on vacation, and he opened up the thing. There's a raccoon inside the trash can, and he got his buddy to like get it out, and they're like freaking out, and they're videotaping the whole thing, and it jumps out at them because it was very funny.
Bob Saget would have loved that.
Rest in peace. But the article continues. On the day she called for help, the woman told law enforcement she had never seen the wild animals arrive in such large droves. Only recently, she also said they had become aggressive.
The raccoons literally came home to roost.
Yeah, and probably because she got scared and stopped giving the food, so they got more aggressive.
Yeah.
She said the normal raccoons are nice, but the new ones scare her, McCarty said, citing a report from a deputy.
Raccoons these days.
Who responded to the house on Thursday and spoke with the homeowner. The woman told the deputy the raccoons visited her property until they were fed, and anytime she attempted to leave her home, McCarty said, she would toss food at them. The animals regularly approached the home and scratch on the windows or walls at all hours of the day. Officials said the woman told them.
This woman has trapped herself. She's in a raccoon prison of her own design.
This is like that woman that I guess inadvertently got attacked by all the vultures that wouldn't leave the house. They just started living there.
Yeah.
Anyways, on a recent day, she called for help because she said she could not leave the property.
Well, she had to pay the raccoon toll.
Yeah.
We've been telling all our friends and family in the world of raccoons that this is where the food is. Also, who the fuck are you? We come here and the food just appears. And you're just some person who's in our food territory.
You must be stealing the food.
And listen, I don't see any food, but if there was food here, it's for us, not for you, lady. And
one of those raccoons is going to get a hold of a gun one day, and then it's going to be real bad.
A small enough gun, they have the hands for it.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's a lot of raccoons. And yeah, they all look like they showed up hungry.
Mm-hmm.
Raccoons in the daytime, that is eerie.
Yeah, you don't see that very much.
You don't see it in the day. I think they're mostly asleep in the day, but these raccoons have adapted to a very unnatural situation that you have created, you idiot. A couple of raccoons, not a threat unless you intentionally go and try to pick a fight with them, and they're going to scratch you up, and you're going to need to go get a rabies shot, and it's inconvenient. But 100 raccoons could very conceivably tear you limb from limb and just pick your bones clean with their cute little hands.
But then they would at least learn that they wouldn't get fed after that.
Yeah, well, that's true.
Yeah.
And that's especially if you've conditioned them over several decades to view your house as the place where the food is.
Uh-huh.
Wild raccoons only live like 2 to 3 years. So 4 decades of this lady feeding them means they've been coming to her for food for several dozen generations. And at this point, it's all they know. So yeah, the obvious lesson here is don't feed wild animals, you idiot. Don't do it. They don't need your help. They're animals.
Yeah. Anyways, this episode isn't sponsored, which is fine. But before we move on to the headlines half of the show, we might as well take a moment to ask that you hit that like button now. Leave a comment to help with the YouTube algorithm. We always ask at the end, but sometimes people see the little end screen pop up and they're like, well, I guess that's done.
Yeah, that's where some of the best stuff is. That's,
your
always
loss. The fun stuff.
Your loss.
Also, if you're feeling generous, it's not sponsored today. Become a member. Unlock a cool little badge next to your name. Maybe I'll update the emojis at some point that have been the same for 5 years.
I don't know if it ain't broke. Don't
do noi buy.
Do noi fix.
All right, with that out of the way, it's time for the weirdest, wildest, real news headlines from around the world, starting with
Trump, God bless the USA Bibles, printed in China, records show.
Obviously, just like everything else he produces.
Yeah, it's all made in China, the country that he hates, that they're taking American jobs. You know, it used to be the Bibles were made in America, but now they're made in China.
Sorry, folks.
And yes,
I'm a businessman.
The crazy is they kind of buried the lead here because they looked at all the records and the Bibles cost Trump $3 a piece. And he is selling them for $60.
It's a wonderful deal.
Huge profit margins.
Yeah. He would do very well on Shark Tank.
He would.
Yeah.
But Mark Cuban's there and he's very nasty.
Oh, but Mr. Wonderful's there and he's very kind to Trump.
Loves the crypto. Have fun with your bitcoins.
Have fun with your little bitcoins. Canadian immigrant, by the way.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
See, not all immigrants are bad.
Did you bring up the Trump Mormon stuff?
Oh, I did see that.
He produced
he's selling
beer koozies and coffee mugs
the
to Mormons.
Mormons for Trump, yeah. I mean, yeah, you could use a beer koozie as a...
Coke can koozie?
Well, they can't have Coke because it's got caffeine.
Caffeine-free Coke.
Maybe a ginger ale. Maybe
root beer.
Maybe a delicious Barks root beer.
No, Elliot, that one has bite. Barks has bite.
Yeah, it's a koozie, and what was the other thing?
A coffee mug.
I mean, listen, you can have
caffeine-free
herbal tea out of a coffee mug.
Some hot cocoa, maybe?
A coffee mug isn't necessarily a coffee mug.
Yeah.
Delicious hot cocoa.
It's just a very funny image.
Yeah.
Yep.
I mean, it'd be funny if it was like...
What do you mean these freaks can't have caffeine?
Mormons for Trump brand condoms. That'd be funny.
Yeah. They're holy.
They are holy. They don't work.
Yeah. Melania Trump defends fundamental right to abortion in upcoming memoir.
When she first announced that she was writing a book, everyone was like, why?
Yeah.
Who asked for this? Do we need this? But the more I learn about it, the more fascinated I am because she's a weird lady and we don't hear from her enough. And apparently in this book, she's just like, yes, me and Donald, we don't agree on everything. For example, we disagree completely on abortion and immigration. And I'm like, lady, those are like the 2 biggest platforms of the Republican Party.
Yeah.
Your husband is literally Donald Trump.
Yeah.
What are you talking about?
It'll be a fascinating, I'm not going to read it, but it would be a fascinating read just to like, a viewpoint from someone who is so within a bubble.
So out of touch.
Yeah.
Yeah. But apparently still willing to just be like, no, abortion should totally be legal. Men have no right to restrict it at all. Anyway, we're all looking for the guy responsible for this.
Could be anyone.
Could be anyone. Ex-NBA player running for U.S. Senate comes under fire for resurfaced comment that the bad guys won World War II. And yes, this guy's name is Royce White. He's running against Amy Klobuchar, and he's probably going to lose. He's way underwater. But I love that he's like being framed and framing himself as an ex-NBA player when he played a total of 3 games in the NBA for like the Sacramento Kings as like a sub.
Technically correct though.
He was on an NBA team. He spent the vast majority of his time on that team on the bench waiting for something catastrophic to happen to the good players. But he was there. And he was like, the bad guys won World War II. And people were like, what did you mean by that? He's like, it's offensive to say that I'm claiming like Hitler was the good guys. What I'm saying is they were all the bad guys. And like, okay, so.
It doesn't come off like that, even if that's what you meant, which I don't know. But like,
I mean, and listen,
optics.
You could make, I guess, the argument that I think you'd be mostly wrong, but you could make an argument that they were all the bad guys. But I'd say one group was leaps and bounds worse
Out
than
of
any
all
of the rest.
modern wars, at least the most clearly defined. Probably.
Yeah, I mean, when you do the Holocaust, like, there's just, I don't think anyone else really comes close.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, he's like, liberalism and globalism won World War II. So those are the bad guys.
I guess I should steal a quote from Fox News and say, shut up and dribble.
Yeah.
Because they do say that whenever it's the athlete is
They do.
Even slightly left of center. But when it's a Republican, I guess they can,
Yeah.
let's get Scott Baio on here or
My advice for this
any
guy
other. Yeah.
is better start learning Chinese, buddy. I'm going to send you,
That's not a real quote from the commissioner. But
No, he said it. I saw the graphic. And yeah, I think this Royce White fellow, he'd be using his time much more effectively for himself, his family, and the state of Minnesota if he was over playing for the Shanghai Sharks.
Yeah, I guess so. Central Pennsylvania School District installs surveillance windows in gender-inclusive bathrooms. Don't you feel safe now, everyone?
Yeah, we'll give the trans, non-binary, whatever kids their own bathrooms that they can
But
use.
we want to look in.
But yeah, we're gonna put a big window there so we can look inside.
Yeah.
They reversed this after one day.
Yeah, well, duh. It's like on its face, just a horrific idea.
They paid God knows how much money to
$50
to have these windows cut out of like masonry. And then the second students and teachers and parents saw this and it made the news. They're like, okay, fine.
Yeah.
We'll board them up with plywood. But they were like, listen, you can't like see into the stalls. You just see into the bathroom. And it's like, have you seen an American bathroom stall? There is like 3 inches of clearance there. With a modern cell phone camera, you could zoom into that crack and see everything.
You're already getting too far into the concept without just claiming that on its face, it's the most horrific idea you've ever heard.
It's terrible, and it's just there to punish.
It is a punishment.
It's there to punish and shame.
Yes.
So great job, idiots.
Well, let's go over to a funnier headline. Let's less
From
serious.
a funnier country.
Yeah. King Charles didn't realize what cling film was and shrieked first time he saw it.
Oh! What is this? Sorcery!
Oh, it's a specter!
Yeah, I love hearing about stuff like this. So he walked in to eat his lunch, and there was cling film over like a bowl.
I can't touch the food.
And he was convinced it was like some sort of like something had happened to the food.
Some wizard has cast a spell over my
Some
food.
evil has befallen this meal.
Yeah.
And his wife had to explain what cling film was. He had never seen it in his life before.
This would have never happened if Diana was still around.
No, it would have happened.
Yeah, probably. But she would have probably called him an idiot and slapped him.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, this is the kind of stuff you want to see coming out of the royal family.
Yeah, I want to know everything that King Charles doesn't know. Everything just being a royal for 80 fucking years, he has never once come into contact with.
Yeah, people shit all over the YouTubers and TikTokers trying things. Like, I want to see King Charles try the SpongeBob Krabby Patty down at Wendy's.
Oh my God. Yeah.
Oh, it's horrid. Ew.
Royal family members try...
they have no right calling this the Burger King.
No.
It's at Wendy's, I think, but you get it. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure in England they can't have Burger King. They legally they have to change the name to like Burger Duke or something like that.
I know in Australia they call it Hungry Jack.
Hungry Jacks,
Yeah.
because they still worship the king down there.
Hungry Yanks, because you got to be starving to eat this
Yeah.
crap. Men submitted fake iPhones 6,000 times in order to get real ones in return.
It's an incredible scam that I would have never even thought that would work. But they'd order knockoffs from China and then send those to Apple being like, oh, it stopped working.
Yeah.
Can you fix it? And like, if you didn't know this, anytime you send like even a slightly broken Apple product, they just ship you a brand new one.
Yeah.
They did this 6,000 times and made like $3 million off of it before
insane.
anyone even noticed.
This is also a huge scam on Amazon because Amazon has like very little oversight on its resellers. And so people will just get fake stuff, buy real ones, send back the fake stuff and get the money back. And then those just get rerouted to someone else. It's like an insane, and it's all like a numbers game too.
Yeah.
It's, you really, at this point, we might have to go back to brick and mortar.
There are
Amazon
advantages.
has literally turned into such a shithole.
Yeah, it sucks. It's so hard to find anything actually trustworthy.
I was looking at like big power banks for my brother and his family for hurricanes and stuff like that, and it's like names I haven't even, but funny names that like don't even make sense for the product that I've never even fucking heard
names
of.
that if maybe if you'd lived your whole life in China and were only like sort of vaguely familiar with English words and names, you might pick as the name of your product.
Yeah, it's wild. It is. Amazon is just like Temu.
Yeah, it's all garbage.
Yeah, it's careful out there, folks. Back to the old brick and mortars.
Yeah. Unfortunately. Officers seized bag with definitely not a bag full of drugs printed on it, and it was full of drugs, police bureau says.
My brilliant idea didn't work out.
Officer, I'd have to be a moron.
A stupid idiot.
I'd have to be the dumbest criminal alive to fill this bag here that says definitely not a bag full of drugs with drugs.
Yeah.
So like, can I have a nice day? No,
Nice day in
they
prison.
did not have a nice day. Yeah, it was full of drugs. It didn't work. If you're thinking about using this one simple trick, doesn't work.
No.
They'll still look in the bag.
Lincoln Park man will skip the Chicago Marathon to run around his block 79 times instead.
You save money doing that.
Sure,
The marathon's expensive, and I'd say you've done a couple marathons at this point. I would say, like, I will never do a marathon, but if I was to do
it... you could do it, Elliot. Come on.
Absolutely not. If I was to do one, I feel like the only thing that would keep me going for those 26.2 miles is at least having, like, new scenery to look at.
Yeah.
The idea of running around a city block 79 times sounds like pure hell. This is what hell is to me.
This happens, too. There's, like, some Strava freaks that... there was one guy that lived in a cul-de-sac, so it was literally, like, a perfect circle for 26 miles.
Oh, God.
Yeah, the whole point that like at least keeps me going is looking at stuff.
Yeah.
And when it's a marathon, it's usually like people like with bells and cheering and all that kind of stuff. So it's fun, but you do you, guy.
Well, he did manage to, he made it his own thing. He got it like certified by whatever the association that certifies races is.
Sure.
And he got it sponsored by a bunch of local Chicago places, and he's raising money for the homeless.
Good.
So, who knows? It's Chicago. This is the home of the rat hole, so there's probably going to be crowds around that block cheering him on as he runs around it 79 times.
I mean, look, even at like a decent pace, that's just like 4 hours out of your day to go watch this guy.
Yeah.
Get a lawn chair, relax, enjoy it.
Hey, how many is this now? Oh, 25? Oh, better pick up the pace.
If this is Chicago, they should do a round of 79 beers on the wall. And pass one round.
79 shots of that nasty liquor of theirs that I can never remember the name of.
I can't either. Oh, well.
Stolen Vienna sausages lead to Georgia nursing home resident being stabbed in the chest.
I love those sausages.
The old people don't have a lot going on.
No.
They got very few pleasures in life.
Eating, fucking, and playing bridge.
Watching the Jeopardy.
Yeah.
Well, not anymore.
Not with that
anymore.
That young man on there. How does he know anything? He's got to be 15, 16 years old.
He doesn't even have a mustache.
That Ken Jennings baby face.
That lazy millennial Ken Jennings. But he's stealing old man's beans. Or sorry, not beans. His Vienna sausages.
That man eating beans!
Vienna sausage, I don't think I've ever had one. It's a can full of like
little sausages.
Little tiny hot dogs.
They I had them when I was a kid because they would be at like my parents' friends' dinner parties.
I think like I must have had them in like pigs in a blanket.
Probably.
But it sounds like this guy was just eating them straight out of the can.
Yeah, they do that too.
Disgusting.
If it's a retirement home, it's probably like someone that was getting them in like at like the army or something. So like, here's your Vienna sausages.
Yeah.
Yeah, I got a taste for them. That and M&Ms. Love those M&Ms and my little jar of Tabasco sauce.
Yeah. Just bring me the closest thing to an MRE that you've got.
Mm-hmm.
Reminds me of the good days.
This free Georgetown house comes with thousands of dead bodies.
Yeah, because it's a cemetery.
Oh.
It's a historic cemetery. But you get to live, the house is sick.
Yeah.
This is like a fucking cool ass house.
I wouldn't mind it.
This is a house that would cost probably like $10 million just for the house, not even just the land. And this guy gets to live there for free. And all he has to do is like mow the lawn and keep the graves clean and give people tours when they're talking about buying a new plot.
Okay.
Pretty sweet deal.
Yeah.
And it's like
owning a lighthouse.
It's probably haunted, but like a lot of the dead people are like Madeleine Albright and various Washington mainstays and officials and local celebrities.
Yeah.
So the ghosts are probably more fun that way.
Look, in this market, you got to take what you can get.
Yeah, I would absolutely do this.
Yeah,
this
100%.
is like right up my alley.
100%. No problem at all. Let's
Hell
do
yeah.
it.
Anyway, that's our show.
We did it.
And we did it. We got through it, folks. Almost an hour. Holy crap.
Yeah.
We
So
got to end this quick.
You better click that join button, click that thank button, contribute to the channel in a very nice way. We appreciate it. I'm hearing that some people are joining for the first time. Thank
Wow.
you so much. Wow.
A second
another
joiner.
member.
Second member has joined.
You're going to want those memberships because we're probably going to do a live stream for the election.
Oh God.
And you're going to want
I got to
those,
start training for that.
yeah, you're gonna want the symbol next to your name that lets everyone know how cool you are. But at the very least, please click the like button. Make sure you leave a comment, and of course, make sure you're subscribed. We have some crazy videos for you. We have just absurd LinkedIn lunatics to talk about over here. And that guy, I've seen some people posted more of his posts after that.
Yeah, I looked up a bunch.
Fantastic.
He's great.
Yeah, and then also the if you haven't had enough of Elon, the Cyber Cop car.
Blech.
And it's coming soon. The Cyber Paddy Wagon. That van is is gonna be blue and red.
It's going to have an Irish accent and everything.
All right, so check those out. We'll see you soon.
Bye-bye.